The emergency session of the Galactic Council began exactly 7 days after the battle with the Void Collective. The chamber was more crowded than it had ever been. Every species, major and minor, had sent representatives. Everyone wanted to be part of this historic moment. Ambassador David Chen stood in the center of the chamber, looking small beneath the towering architecture. But everyone present knew that his apparent fragility was an illusion. He represented a species that could reshape the galaxy on a whim. Council leader Shirath called the session to order. Her voice was steady, but Veshka could see the tension in her posture. Ambassador Chen, we have called this council to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. After recent events, it is clear that the balance of power is not what we believed. No, Chen agreed. It is not. But I want to be very clear about something. The balance of power has not changed. It has always been this way. The only thing that changed is your awareness of it. A murmur ran through the chamber. Chen raised his hand for silence and continued. For 10,000 years we have remained separate from galactic affairs. That was our choice and our burden. But recent developments have forced us to reconsider our isolation. The threat we warned you about, the one we said would arrive in 30 years, is coming faster than we predicted. The Void Collective was just an advance group. The real danger is still approaching. What kind of danger? Someone asked. Chen activated a holographic display. It showed something massive moving through the void between galaxies. It looked like a storm made of darkness consuming everything in its path. We call it the entropy wave. It is a region of space where the fundamental laws of physics are breaking down. Stars die instantly when it touches them. Planets dissolve into dust. All life ceases. And it is heading directly toward our galaxy. The chamber fell silent. The image showed destruction on a scale that made the Void Collective look like a minor threat. When will it arrive? Shirath asked quietly. 15 years, Chen replied. Maybe 20 if we are fortunate. Humanity alone cannot stop it. We have been studying this phenomenon for 3,000 years, developing weapons and strategies. But the entropy wave is not an enemy we can simply defeat. It is more like a natural disaster on a cosmic scale. Stopping it will require the combined efforts of every advanced civilization in the galaxy. You are saying you need our help, another representative said. There was suspicion in the voice. After 10,000 years of keeping us at arm's length, now you need us? Yes, Chen said simply. That is exactly what I am saying. Humanity made a mistake 10,000 years ago. We thought we could protect everyone by standing apart, by bearing the burden alone. But some threats are too large for any single species, no matter how advanced. We should have brought you into our confidence long ago. We should have shared what we knew and prepared together. For that error in judgment, I apologize on behalf of all humanity. The apology hung in the air. No one had expected it. The supreme power of the galaxy was admitting fault. So what do you propose? Veshka asked. Chen smiled. We propose a new agreement. We call it the Covenant of Equals. Let me explain its principles. He outlined humanity's proposal. First, they would share defensive technologies with any species willing to join the Covenant. Not their most advanced weapons, but sufficient technology to allow other species to defend themselves and contribute to the common defense. This technology would be carefully calibrated to prevent misuse against other member species. Second, humanity would maintain their guardian role against external threats from beyond the galaxy. They would continue to monitor the void and respond to dimensional incursions. But they would do so openly, with the knowledge and support of the Galactic Council. Third, and most importantly, humanity would not interfere in internal galactic politics. Wars between species, territorial disputes, trade conflicts, these would remain the responsibility of the Galactic Council to resolve. Humanity would step in only if genocide or extinction-level events were imminent. Fourth, humanity asked for free passage through galactic space and the right to maintain their privacy within their own territories. They would participate in trade and cultural exchange but would not be required to share all their technology or knowledge. In summary, Chen concluded, we offer protection and partnership without domination. We ask for respect and independence without isolation. We hope to build a future where humanity is part of the galactic community rather than separate from it. The debate began immediately and lasted for 3 days. Veshka watched as every possible argument was raised. Some species worried that accepting humanity's help would make them dependent. What if humanity changed their mind in the future? What if new leaders emerged with different values? Others feared that sharing any advanced technology would destabilize the existing power structures. Species that were currently strong might find themselves overtaken by younger civilizations with human-enhanced technology. A few representatives argued that the entire proposal was manipulation. Perhaps the entropy wave was not as dangerous as humanity claimed. Perhaps this was all a scheme to establish control while appearing benevolent. But slowly, one by one, the arguments fell away. Because the evidence was undeniable. The recordings of the battle with the Void Collective showed what humanity could do. The historical records proved they had exercised restraint for millennia, and the astronomical data confirmed that something terrible was approaching the galaxy. On the third day of debate, a surprising voice spoke up. It was the representative from the Void Collective, who had been invited to observe the proceedings. Her name was Collector Prime, and her species had every reason to hate humanity after their recent defeat. "I wish to speak," she announced. The chamber grew quiet. "My people came to this galaxy as invaders," Collector Prime said. "We were desperate and afraid. Our home was dying. We thought the only way to survive was to take what we needed by force. The humans defeated us in battle. They could have destroyed us completely. Instead, they offered us peace. They gave us resources and territory. They treated us with respect even though we had been their enemies." She paused, her alien features difficult to read but her voice clear. "If humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, they would have started with us. We were already defeated, already at their mercy, but they chose cooperation over domination. That choice speaks louder than any words. The Void Collective supports the Covenant of Equals." Her statement shifted the momentum. If even humanity's recent enemies trusted them, how could the older galactic species refuse? Veshka requested permission to speak. "I was the first to make contact with humanity after their long isolation. I have seen their worlds, met their people, and studied their history. I believe their offer is genuine. But more than that, I believe we need them. The threats they have been fighting in secret are real. The entropy wave is coming. We can face it together or we can face it divided. There is only one rational choice." The vote was called. Each species cast their decision. The final tally showed that 73% of the Galactic Council approved the Covenant of Equals. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Humanity was officially welcomed back into the galactic community, not as conquerors or rulers, but as partners in the shared future. After the vote, Veshka found himself alone with Ambassador Chen in a quiet observation room overlooking the stars. "You did it," Veshka said. "You convinced them." Chen shook his head. "We did not convince anyone. We simply showed them the truth. The galaxy is facing a threat that requires unity. Humanity has the power to help, but not the authority to command. This was the only path forward. What happens now?" Veshka asked. "Now the real work begins," Chen replied. "We will start sharing technology, teaching, training, building the defenses we will need to face the entropy wave. It will take years of cooperation and trust building. There will be setbacks and disagreements, but for the first time in 10,000 years, humanity will not be standing guard alone." Veshka looked out at the stars. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Your people achieved such incredible advancement during your isolation. You could have remained separate forever. Why risk coming back? Why expose yourselves to all the complications of galactic politics?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "Because isolation is not living, Commander. It is merely existing. We thought we were protecting the galaxy by staying away, but we were also protecting ourselves from having to deal with the messy, complicated reality of other species. We were safe, comfortable, but we were not growing anymore." He turned to face Veshka. "The truth is, humanity needs the galaxy as much as the galaxy needs humanity. You remind us why we fight. You give us purpose beyond our own survival. Every species out there struggling and growing and reaching for the stars. You are what makes the universe worth protecting." "And the entropy wave?" Veshka asked. "Is real and dangerous," Chen admitted. "But it is also an opportunity, a chance for all of us to come together and achieve something no single species could accomplish alone. Humanity has the greatest technology, yes, but you have something we lost during our isolation. You have diversity of thought. Different perspectives." The morning sun rose over Geneva, casting long shadows across the United Nations Plaza. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the window of the emergency session chamber, watching the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds and atmosphere, The largest alien fleet humanity had ever seen waited in orbit. They had arrived 3 days ago. 47 massive warships, each one larger than an aircraft carrier, had simply appeared in space around Earth. No warning. No gradual approach. Just there, suddenly, like a statement of dominance. Behind Sarah, representatives from every nation on Earth argued in a dozen languages. The translator devices were working overtime, just like at that council meeting 23 light-years away that humans knew nothing about. Dr. Chen, a voice called. It was General Marcus Rivera, his military uniform crisp despite the 72 hours of non-stop crisis management. They are responding to our hails. They want to talk. Sarah turned from the window, her heart pounding. She had trained her entire life for this moment. First contact, the dream of every xenobiologist. Except in her dreams, it had never started with an invasion fleet. Put it through, she said. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Crethian flagship. Fleet Commander Thexal stood at the center, his reptilian form imposing even through the video feed. His scales were a deep crimson, his eyes the color of amber. When he spoke, the translation software converted his language into something humans could understand. Inhabitants of the third planet of System Sol. I am Fleet Commander Thexal of the Crethian Empire. We come to bring order to your chaotic world. You will cease your primitive conflicts and submit to imperial governance. Resistance is illogical. You have 48 of your hours to provide your formal acceptance of vassalage. The chamber fell silent. Sarah felt every eye turn to her. She was the first contact specialist. This was her moment. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. Commander Thexal, I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the people of Earth. We are honored by your contact. But I must inform you that humanity operates under the principle of self-determination. We respectfully decline your offer of vassalage. However, we would welcome diplomatic relations as equals. Thexal's expression did not change. Sarah was not even sure if his species could smile. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Your world is now part of the Crethian Empire. We are offering you the opportunity to join peacefully. This offer will not be repeated. Then I must respectfully inform you that our answer will remain the same, Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. We are a free species and intend to remain so. For a moment, Thexal simply stared at her. Then he made a gesture with one clawed hand. Very well. We shall provide a demonstration of the consequences of resistance. The screen went dark. Everyone to the observation deck, General Rivera shouted. Now they ran. By the time they reached the deck with its reinforced windows, it was already happening. High above Earth, one of humanity's orbital platforms, a research station that had been unmanned for maintenance, simply exploded. The flash of light was visible even in the daylight, a brief new star in the sky. They just destroyed the Horizon Station, someone whispered. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Get me a line to every head of state. Emergency Protocol Alpha. What happened next would have seemed impossible just weeks before. Nations that had been enemies for decades suddenly opened their borders. Russia shared missile technology with NATO. China gave the United States access to their quantum research. India and Pakistan worked side by side on defense systems. Israel and Iran collaborated on countermeasures. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth had the same enemy. And that changed everything. In the Crethian flagship, Thexal watched his monitors with satisfaction. The destruction of the orbital platform had sent the desired message. Now he observed the human response. Their military forces were mobilizing, which was expected. Primitive species always made a show of resistance before accepting reality. Commander, his intelligence officer reported, we are detecting unusual communication patterns. Multiple nations are broadcasting on shared frequencies. They appear to be coordinating something. Coordinating their surrender, no doubt, Thexal replied. Continue monitoring. When they are ready to submit, we will receive their delegation. But the humans were not preparing to surrender. In secret facilities across the globe, scientists examined every scrap of data they had collected from the Crethian vessels. The brief destruction of the Horizon Station had given them something valuable. Sensor readings of Crethian weapon systems. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat in a laboratory in Tokyo, staring at energy signatures that should not have been possible. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency, she muttered to her team. If we can predict the rotation pattern, We can find windows of vulnerability. In Virginia, engineers at NASA studied the propulsion systems of the Crethian ships. It is a gravity manipulation drive, one explained excitedly. If we can generate a counterfield, we might be able to disrupt their movement. In Moscow, military analysts looked at the Crethian fleet formation and saw weaknesses. They position their command ships at the center, a general noted. They assume nothing can reach that far. But our new missiles. All over Earth, humans did what humans do best. They adapted. They learned. They improvised. General Rivera coordinated it all from the UN Command Center. How long do we have? He asked Sarah. 36 hours until their deadline, she replied. But I do not think they will wait that long. She was right. 20 hours later, the Crethian fleet began moving into attack positions. Thexal had grown impatient. Prepare landing forces, he ordered. We will establish control zones in their major population centers. Use minimal force. We want workers, not corpses. The first Crethian landing craft descended toward New York City. Citizens had been evacuated to underground shelters. The streets were empty, or so it seemed. The landing craft touched down in Central Park, its massive legs crushing trees and paths. The rear ramp lowered, and Crethian soldiers marched out in formation, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. Then the buildings around them exploded with gunfire. Humans had hidden soldiers in every window, every rooftop, every subway entrance. The Crethians had energy shields, but they had never faced an enemy that understood urban warfare like humans did. A Crethian soldier raised his weapon to return fire and found a human missile streaking toward him from a hidden position. He activated his shield and the missile bounced off, but the explosion created a dust cloud that blocked their thermal sensors. And in that dust, human soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. In London, the landing was even worse for the Crethians. Humans had studied their shield frequencies. When the landing craft touched down near Westminster, every weapon fired at the exact same moment, all calibrated to the shield's vulnerable rotation point. 3 Crethian soldiers fell before they even left their craft. In Beijing, humans used their knowledge of the city's underground tunnel system to attack from below. Crethian sensors could not penetrate the layers of concrete and earth. By the time they realized humans were emerging from sewers and subway tunnels, it was too late. Aboard the flagship, Thexal watched his casualty reports with growing concern. This is not the response profile of a primitive species, he muttered. Commander, his tactical officer said nervously. We are receiving reports from all landing zones. The humans are using coordinated guerrilla tactics. They are exploiting our sensor blind spots. They are adapting to our weapons in real time. Impossible. They have only observed our technology for a few rotations. Nevertheless, Commander, it is happening. In space, things were about to get worse for the Crethians. Captain Yuki Tanaka commanded a vessel that had been, until a week ago, an asteroid mining ship called Prospector's Dream. Now it was humanity's first improvised warship. Target locked, her weapons officer reported. Firing solution ready. Fire, Yuki commanded. The mining ship's magnetic accelerator, designed to catch and process asteroids, launched a chunk of iron ore at a significant fraction of light speed. The Crethian cruiser's shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They were not designed to stop a 5-ton piece of metal moving at relativistic velocity. The impact punched through the shield and tore into the cruiser's hull. Alarms screamed across the Crethian fleet. Commander, the tactical officer shouted. The humans just weaponized a mining vessel. Thexal stared at his screens in disbelief. All around Earth, he saw similar improvisations. Communication satellites were being retrofitted with chemical rockets to become kinetic weapons. Space stations were repositioning to create crossfire zones. Even civilian spacecraft were being converted into missiles. And then the humans stopped broadcasting entirely. Every radio frequency went silent. Every communication channel went dark. What is happening? Thexal demanded. Unknown, Commander. We have lost all intelligence on human coordination. What the Crethians did not know was that humans had switched to fiber optic ground lines and short-range laser communications. They had deliberately made themselves deaf and blind to deny the Crethians intelligence. General Rivera coordinated the blackout from his command center. They have been listening to everything, he explained to his staff. The Crethian soldier had never experienced true fear before. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world with few threats. His empire had conquered dozens of species. He had trained for combat his entire adult life. None of that prepared him for fighting humans in their own cities. He crouched behind a destroyed vehicle in what the humans called Moscow. His squad reduced from 12 to 4 in less than an hour. The enemy was everywhere and nowhere. Every shadow could hide a human. Every piece of rubble could conceal a weapon. Every corner could be a trap. Movement. North corridor. His squad leader hissed through the communication link. The soldier raised his energy rifle and aimed at the indicated position. Nothing. Just darkness and debris. But his thermal sensor showed a heat signature. He fired. The explosion came from behind him. His shield absorbed most of the blast, but the force threw him against a wall. His helmet display cracked. Through the broken screen, he saw a human female standing on a rooftop, already disappearing into a doorway. She had used a heat decoy to draw his fire while she threw her explosive from a different angle. "Fall back," the squad leader ordered. "Regroup at landing zone 7. They never made it." The humans had studied Krathian tactics for 3 weeks now. They knew the aliens would retreat to their landing zones when pressed. Every route was mined, trapped, or covered by hidden snipers. By the time reinforcements reached the squad, only one soldier remained alive. The humans had taken the others. Not killed. Taken. That was somehow worse. In space, Captain Yuki Tanaka guided Prospector's Dream through a debris field that had once been a Krathian supply convoy. Her mining ship had been joined by 17 others, all retrofitted with weapons that would have made no sense to traditional military thinking. "Target ahead," her sensor officer called out. "Krathian transport, low armor, probably carrying supplies." "Prepare the net," Yuki ordered. Her crew activated the magnetic field generator, the same tool they had used to capture asteroids. The field enveloped the Krathian transport and pulled it off course. Within minutes, human boarding teams had breached the hull. "What are they carrying?" Yuki asked over the communication link. "Food supplies, Commander," came the reply. "And something else. Some kind of power cells. Our engineers are going to love these." Yuki smiled. Humans were not just fighting the Krathians. They were learning from them, stealing from them, and improving on everything they captured. On Mars, where humanity had established small colonies decades ago, the colonists had transformed their habitats into fortresses. The Krathians had tried to land there once. The low gravity and thin atmosphere that humans had learned to work with became deadly. Disadvantages for the heavier Krathian soldiers in their rigid armor. Colonists used their knowledge of the terrain to deadly effect. They collapsed tunnels on Krathian patrols. They used dust storms to mask their movements. They even weaponized the harsh environment itself, disabling Krathian life support systems and leaving soldiers to suffocate in the thin air. General Rivera coordinated it all from his command center, which had moved underground after the first week of fighting. He stood before a holographic display showing the entire Sol system, noting every human position and every Krathian movement. "They are pulling back from Sydney," a tactical officer reported. "The urban resistance is too costly for them." "Tokyo reports capturing another Krathian armored vehicle," another officer added. "Engineering teams are already examining it." Rivera nodded, but his expression remained serious. "What about the reinforcement fleets?" "Still 3 weeks out, sir. But when they arrive, we will be facing nearly 200 warships." Dr. Sarah Chen entered the command center looking exhausted. She had not slept more than a few hours in the past month. "General, we need to talk about the prisoners." Rivera turned to her. "What about them?" "We have 47 Krathian soldiers in custody now." "They are confused, General. Their military doctrine did not prepare them for enemies who take prisoners and treat them according to rules of war." "Are you suggesting we use them as leverage?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "I am suggesting we use them as teachers. They are already talking to us, answering questions. They do not understand why we give them medical care and proper food. One of them asked me why we have not tortured him. He genuinely expected it." Rivera considered this. "Keep treating them well. Let them report back what they experience if they can. Psychological warfare is still warfare." In the Krathian flagship, Commander Thexal read the reports with growing unease. Casualty rates were unacceptable. Supply lines were constantly under attack. Landing zones were becoming untenable. And most disturbing of all, the humans were advancing technologically at an impossible rate. "Show me the latest intelligence," he ordered. His officer brought up images that made Thexal's blood run cold. Human soldiers wearing captured Krethian armor. Human weapons modified with Krethian power cells. Human fighters equipped with stolen shield generators. How long have they had this technology? He demanded. 6 rotations, Commander. Impossible. It took our species generations to develop shield technology. They have integrated it into their equipment in 6 rotations. The evidence is clear, Commander. Thexal thought back to the council meeting, to Ambassador Velkoth's warnings. Adaptation predators. The words echoed in his mind. He activated his personal communication link to the one person who might understand what was happening. It took several minutes to establish the connection across the light years, but eventually, Ambassador Velkoth's insectoid face appeared on his screen. Commander Thexal, Velkoth said, his tone neutral. I wondered when you would contact me. I need advice, Thexal said bluntly, setting aside pride. The humans are not behaving as predicted. They are adapting too quickly. They are using tactics we have never encountered. Velkoth's antennae drooped sadly. You are experiencing what my people experienced. Commander, how many military conflicts has the Krathian Empire engaged in during its history? 42 successful conquests, 17 suppressed rebellions. And how many of those were against species with comparable technology? None. We are the dominant military power in this region. Exactly, Velkoth said. You have never fought an enemy that could match you. But humans? Commander, humans have been fighting each other for 10,000 of their years. They invented warfare. Every tactic you know, they invented it first. Every strategy, every counter-strategy, every form of combat, they have practiced it all upon themselves. Thexal felt something cold settle in his chest. What are you saying?
I am saying that you are not fighting a primitive species learning to wage war.
You are fighting a species of warriors who are learning, for the first time, to point their weapons at something other than each other. The communication link filled with static for a moment. When it cleared, Velkoth continued. There is something else you should know. Something I learned too late. Humans do not fight to win. They fight so that you lose. Do you understand the difference? Thexal did not answer. He was thinking about the captured Krethian soldiers who reported being treated well, about the supply convoys destroyed with minimal loss of life, about how humans could have used nuclear weapons but had not. They are learning about us, he said slowly. While we fight them, they study us. Yes, Velkoth confirmed. And every day they fight, they become more dangerous. Not because they gain power, but because they gain understanding. Commander, my advice to you is simple. Leave. Withdraw from Sol System while you still can. Tell High Executor Zarnix that this conquest cannot succeed. I cannot do that. 3 more fleets are already coming. Velkoth's compound eyes seemed to dim. Then you're about to learn the hardest lesson about humans. What happens when you back them into a corner with no way out? What happens when they fight not for conquest but for survival? The connection ended. Thexal sat in his command chair, staring at the planet below. Somewhere down there, Dr. Sarah Chen was coordinating with General Rivera. Somewhere down there, Captain Yuki Tanaka was planning her next raid on Krethian supply lines. Somewhere down there, millions of humans were preparing for the arrival of the reinforcement fleets, and they were not preparing to surrender. In a secret facility beneath the Alps, human engineers worked on something that should have been impossible. They had taken pieces of Krethian technology, combined them with human innovations, and created something new. Something the Krethians had never imagined. Final test in 30 seconds, the lead engineer announced. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the observation deck. General Rivera stood beside her. They both knew what success would mean. Test complete, the engineer called out. The drive is stable. We have achieved faster-than-light capability. Sarah and Rivera looked at each other. In 6 weeks, humanity had reverse-engineered and improved upon technology that had taken the Krethians generations to develop. They now had a functioning FTL drive. How many ships can we retrofit? Rivera asked. We have enough components for 3, maybe 4 vessels. It is not much, but it changes everything, Sarah finished. If we can build FTL ships, we are no longer trapped in our own system. We are no longer primitives waiting to be conquered. Rivera nodded slowly. The question is, do we tell the Krethians? Do we show them what we have achieved? The arrival of the 3 Krethian reinforcement fleets should have been the end of human resistance. Nearly 200 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sol System, their combined firepower enough to sterilize a dozen planets. High Executor Zarnix himself commanded the operation from his flagship, the Dominance. He had never personally led a military campaign before, but this situation required his direct attention. The humans had embarrassed the Empire. That could not stand. All ships begin advance toward the third planet, he ordered. Maintain defensive formations. Expect coordinated resistance. What he did not expect was silence. The humans did not hail them, did not threaten them, did not respond at all. The massive fleet moved through the outer system unopposed, passing the orbits of the gas giants without incident. "Where are they?" Zarnix demanded. "Where are the human defensive positions?" "Unknown, High Executor," his sensor officer replied nervously. "We are detecting minimal activity. Most of their orbital infrastructure appears abandoned." "A trap?" "Possibly, High Executor. Or they may have retreated to their planet's surface." Zarnix considered this. Perhaps the humans had finally accepted the futility of resistance. Perhaps the sight of his overwhelming force had broken their will. It would be disappointing after all the trouble they had caused, but logical. He was wrong. The attack came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Small human craft, barely larger than fighters, appeared from behind asteroids, debris fields, and the radiation shadow of Jupiter. Each one carried a weapon the Crethians had, never seen before. A focused plasma lance powered by captured Crethian energy cells but refined with human ingenuity. The lances punched through shields that were not calibrated to defend against their own technology being used against them. 3 Crethian cruisers took critical damage in the first 30 seconds. "Return fire," Zarnix roared. "Destroy them." But the human craft were too small, too fast, too maneuverable. They fought like insects swarming around the massive Crethian ships, striking and disappearing before weapons could lock on. And then the real surprise emerged from Earth's moon. A human warship, sleek and angular, bearing design elements that were distinctly human but powered by technology that should not have existed. Its hull gleamed with integrated Crethian shield generators. Its weapons ports glowed with captured energy systems, modified and improved. "Impossible," Zarnix whispered. "They could not have built that. They do not have the knowledge." But they did, and it was not just one ship. 3 more appeared from hiding positions throughout the inner system. Humanity's first FTL-capable warships, built in secret, designed by engineers who had spent 6 weeks doing what should have taken decades. The lead ship opened a communication channel. Captain Yuki Tanaka's face appeared on Zarnix's screen. "High Executor Zarnix," she said calmly. "I am Captain Tanaka of the Earth Defense Vessel Defiance. You are in violation of sovereign human territory. You have 30 minutes to begin your withdrawal, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war." Zarnix stared at her in disbelief. "You dare threaten me? I have 200 warships. You have 4. "For now," Yuki replied. "But we know how to build more. How long before we have 40? 400? How long before human ships appear in your home system, High Executor? Because we know where it is now. Your captured soldiers were very helpful with their navigation data." The communication ended. Zarnix felt something he had not felt in decades. Uncertainty. "High Executor," his tactical officer interrupted. "The human craft are withdrawing. They are not pressing their advantage." "Why not?" "Unknown, sir." The answer came from a different direction. A small civilian shuttle launched from Earth, broadcasting on all frequencies. It carried 1 passenger. "Dr. Sarah Chen. I am requesting permission to come aboard your flagship," her message said. "I have information you need to hear. Information that might save both our species from unnecessary death." Zarnix considered destroying the shuttle, but curiosity won over anger. "Allow her to dock. Bring her to me under guard." 20 minutes later, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the Dominance, surrounded by Crethian soldiers with weapons trained on her. She showed no fear, which irritated Zarnix even more than her presence. "Speak," he commanded. "Tell me why I should not order your immediate execution." "Because I can tell you something important," Sarah replied calmly. "Something about who humans really are. Something you need to understand before you make your next decision. I understand perfectly well what humans are. You are primitive warmongers who happen to capture some of our technology. No, Sarah said firmly. That is what you want to believe. The truth is more complicated. May I show you something? She gestured to a datapad she carried. A guard scanned it for weapons, found none, and handed it to Zarnix. The screen showed images from human history. Wars, millions of them, thousands of years of conflict. This is what we are, Sarah explained. We did not learn warfare from you. We have been practicing it since before we discovered fire. Do you see this image? This is called World War II. Over 70 million humans died. We did that to ourselves. Not because we are evil, but because we are very, very good at conflict. Zarnix scrolled through the images. The scale of destruction was staggering. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand something crucial. Everything you have seen from us so far, the resistance, the adaptation, the technology theft, that is us being nice. That is us holding back. That is us trying to find a way to avoid total war. She stepped closer, ignoring the guard's warning gestures. High Executor, my species has over 30,000 nuclear weapons. We have chemical weapons that can kill millions. We have biological agents that could wipe out populations. We have invented 1,000 ways to destroy ourselves, and we have not used them against you. Do you know why? Because you fear retaliation. No, because we are trying to find a peaceful solution, because we know what total war means. We have fought it against ourselves. But if you force us, if you leave us no other choice? Sarah's expression hardened. We will show you what humans become when we stop holding back, when we stop trying to be civilized, when we remember that we are not just warriors, High Executor. We are survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes. Zarnix felt a chill run through his scales. He thought about Ambassador Velkoth's warnings, about Commander Thexal's reports, about everything that had gone wrong since they arrived in this system. What are you proposing? He asked carefully. A choice. You can withdraw your forces now and open diplomatic negotiations. We will return your captured soldiers. We will share the technology we have developed. We will work together as equals. Or you can try to destroy us. You can bombard Earth from orbit. You might succeed. You might kill millions of us, maybe even billions, but you will not kill all of us. And the ones who survive will remember. They will build ships. They will find your worlds. And they will show you what humans are really capable of when you take away everything they love. The command center was silent. Every Krethian in the room understood the threat. Not because it was delivered with anger, but because it was delivered with absolute certainty. You are bluffing, Zarnix said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Sarah asked. High Executor, I am a scientist. I study life. I love learning about new species. I came here hoping to avoid war, but I am also human. And if you kill my world, I will spend the rest of my life teaching survivors how to destroy yours. Not because I want to, but because that is what humans do when you threaten our existence. She paused, letting her words sink in. We fight so that you lose, even if it costs us everything. That is the human way. Zarnix turned to his tactical officer. Analysis. If we proceed with orbital bombardment, what are the chances of total elimination of human resistance? The officer's scales paled. Less than 40%, High Executor. Their underground facilities are extensive. Their colonies on Mars and their moons would survive. And they now have FTL capability. Some ships would certainly escape. And if those survivors came for our homeworlds, given their demonstrated adaptability and creativity, the damage would be catastrophic. Zarnix felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He had come here expecting an easy victory. He had found something far more dangerous, a species that fought not with overwhelming power, but with adaptation, innovation, and absolute refusal to surrender. There is one more thing you should know, Sarah added quietly. Before your species made first contact with us, humans had never unified under a single purpose. We were divided by nations, religions, ideologies. We fought each other constantly. But then you came. You gave us a common enemy. For the first time in our history, every human on Earth is working toward the same goal. You united us, High Executor. And now that we know we are not alone in the galaxy, now that we know there are threats out there that want to enslave us, she smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We will never go back to being divided. You have created something you cannot destroy, a unified humanity that knows how to fight, knows how to adapt, and knows that surrender is not an option. In that moment, Zarnix understood what Ambassador Velkoth had tried to warn him about. He understood why other species avoided human space. The Galactic Council chamber had been rebuilt since the last meeting. The attack had come from an extremist faction that objected to the Council's decisions, proving that even advanced civilizations struggled with internal conflict. The new chamber floated in the same location, around the same dying star but with better security. Ambassador Velkoth stood at the center platform again, but this time he was not alone. Beside him stood Dr. Sarah Chen, now bearing the title of Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community. On her other side stood a figure that surprised many, Commander Thexal, wearing not Krathian military armor but simple civilian clothing. The gathered species watched with a mixture of curiosity and concern. The human situation had become legendary in the months since the Krathian withdrawal. Stories spread quickly in the galaxy, especially stories about the species that fought an empire to a standstill. The Council Arbiter's crystalline form pulsed with light. This emergency session is called to address the petition from the planet Earth, known locally as Terra, for recognition as a sovereign spacefaring civilization. Ambassador Chen, you may present your case. Sarah stepped forward, her movements calm despite the weight of representing her entire species. Honorable Council members, I stand before you not to beg for acceptance, but to establish a foundation for mutual cooperation. Humanity has achieved faster-than-light travel. We have proven capable of defending our territory. We have demonstrated both our capacity for warfare and our preference for peace. We meet all technical requirements for Council membership. A delegate from the Krathian Empire rose. It was not Zarnix. The former High Executor sat in a detention facility on the Krathian homeworld, awaiting trial for his military failures and the deaths he had caused. This new delegate, Ambassador Rathan, spoke with careful diplomacy. The Krathian Empire acknowledges the sovereignty of Earth and its territories. We formally withdraw all territorial claims to the Sol system. We also acknowledge that our actions constituted an unprovoked act of aggression, and we are prepared to make reparations. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. A representative from the Srel Consortium spoke up. Commander Thexal, you were the military officer who led the initial Krathian forces. Why do you now stand with the humans? Thexal stepped forward, his reptilian features showing an emotion that translator software labeled as regret. Because I learned the truth that Ambassador Velkoth tried to teach us. I learned it through the loss of thousands of soldiers under my command. I learned it by fighting an enemy I did not understand. He gestured to Sarah. The humans showed me something I did not expect. After weeks of combat, after hundreds of casualties on both sides, they could have executed the prisoners they captured. According to many galactic military doctrines, they would have been justified. But they did not. They fed us. They healed our wounded. They treated us with dignity, even as we had tried to enslave their species. His voice grew stronger. One of my captured soldiers asked a human guard why they were being so kind. The guard said something I will never forget. He said, because when this war ends, we will need to live in the same galaxy. We can be neighbors who respect each other, or enemies who fear each other. We are giving you the choice. That is when I understood. Humans do not want conquest. They want peace. But they will fight with everything they have if you deny them that choice. Velkoth touched antennae with Sarah in a gesture of respect. I warned the Council before. I was not believed. Now I stand with Ambassador Chen to tell you the same truth from a different perspective. Humans are dangerous, yes, but they are dangerous in the same way fire is dangerous. Handle them with respect and they will warm your home. Try to control them with force and they will burn your empire to ashes. A delegate from the Marathi collective spoke, its crystalline form glowing with concern. How can we be certain that humans will not become aggressive? They have shown remarkable military capability. Sarah addressed the question directly. Because we know the cost of war better than any species here. We have fought wars that killed millions. We have invented weapons that could destroy worlds. We have looked into the abyss of our own capacity for destruction, and we chose to step back. We wrote laws to govern warfare. We created international agreements to prevent atrocities. We did all this before we even knew other intelligent life existed. She pulled up a holographic display showing human history. This is what we were: divided, warring, destructive. But we also created art, music, literature, science, and philosophy. We reached for the stars even while we fought over our own dirt. We are complicated, council members. We are not purely good or purely evil. We are capable of both, and we choose each day which path to follow. The council arbiter interrupted. There is a concern about human technological advancement. Your species achieved faster than light travel in less than 2 standard months after first encountering the technology. Some members fear this rate of adaptation. I can address that, Thexol interjected. The humans did not simply copy our technology. They improved it. The drives they built are more efficient than ours. They found flaws in our designs that we had never considered. This is not theft. This is innovation, and it is exactly why we should welcome them into the galactic community, rather than isolate them. Velkoth added his own testimony. Isolation did not work for my species. We tried to forget about humans, to pretend they did not exist. But they did exist. They were always there, advancing, learning, growing. The question is not whether humanity will become a spacefaring power. They already are. The question is whether we will greet them as friends or create enemies who will eventually surpass us. The debate continued for hours. Delegates raised concerns about human military capabilities, their rapid technological growth, their history of conflict. Each concern was addressed not just by Sarah, but by Thexol and Velkoth, who had both experienced human nature firsthand. Finally, the council arbiter called for a vote. The question before this council: should humanity be recognized as a sovereign spacefaring civilization and granted provisional membership in this body? The vote was not unanimous. Some species abstained, uncertain about the implications, but the majority voted in favor. 32 for recognition, 8 against, 7 abstaining. The motion carries, the arbiter announced. Earth and its territories are hereby recognized as sovereign. Ambassador Chen, your people are welcome in this council. Sarah felt the weight of history settle on her shoulders. Humanity was no longer alone. They were part of something larger now, something that carried both opportunity and responsibility. The formal proceedings ended, and the delegates began to disperse. Ambassador Rathan approached Sarah cautiously. Ambassador Chen, I want to personally apologize for what my empire attempted. High Executor Zarnix's actions do not represent the values of all Krethians. I accept your apology, Sarah replied, and I hope we can work together to ensure this never happens again. We are establishing new protocols for first contact situations, Rathan explained. No military vessels will be involved in initial contact. We are also creating educational programs to teach our people about the diversity of intelligent life. Your species taught us a valuable lesson at great cost. Thexol joined them, his expression thoughtful. I have requested permission to stay on Earth for a time. I want to learn more about your species. I want to understand how you balance your capacity for violence with your commitment to peace. Sarah smiled. You will always be welcome, Commander. You chose honor over pride. That takes courage. I chose survival, Thexol corrected. Pride would have gotten my entire species killed. Humans showed me there is strength in admitting when you are wrong. Velkoth approached the group, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. I am relieved, Ambassador Chen. When I warned the council before, I feared I was condemning humanity to isolation or worse. Now I see there is hope for a different future. Ambassador Velkoth, Sarah said warmly. Your people tried to enslave humanity 200 years ago. Yet here you stand defending us. Why? Velkoth's antennae drooped in what might have been shame. Because we learned our mistake. Because we carry the guilt of what we attempted. And because I have spent 2 centuries watching humanity from afar, waiting to see if you would become conquerors like we feared or something better. Today, I have my answer. The 4 of them stood together, representatives of species that had once been enemies, now working toward a common future. In the weeks that followed, Earth underwent rapid changes. Ships from dozens of species began visiting Sol system, bringing trade offers, cultural exchanges, and scientific cooperation. Humans shared their innovations freely, surprising many species who expected them to hoard their technological advantages. General Rivera oversaw the transformation of Earth's military into a defensive force that also served as a peacekeeping organization. "We spent 10,000 years fighting each other," he explained to his officers. "Let us spend the next 10,000 years protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Captain Yuki Tanaka commanded one of humanity's first diplomatic vessels, traveling to distant systems to establish relationships and learn about galactic civilization.